morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, it's time to take a talk about Diggersby. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a new Diggersby on the horizon. It's coming out in VMAX Rising, and oh my goodness, this one could be very, very nice. Now, starting off with the basics, we've got a colourless Pokemon. Colourless Pokemon is kind of rubbish. There's no advantage to be gained from colourless Pokemon. It's just a bit meh. But we do have a retreat cost of 3, which means you can't use buff padding and you can't use Pokemaniac, and you lose all the advantages of being a high retreat Pokemon. You are literally the highest retreat you can have before things start going well. And you've got a weakness to fighting. And there's a lot of good stuff around at the moment, like Morpeko V and Silvally GX and Pikachu and Zekrom, all of which are weak to fighting, so people will play fighting to go against them, and they will therefore be going against you. It's not looking great in terms of the basics. There is very little to be excited about when we sit and look at the basics. Bad typing, bad retreat cost, bad weakness, no real advantages. I will say the 130 HP is up there with things like Naganadel. It is on the higher end of Stage 1 single prize Pokemon, so at least we've got that for what it's worth. But it's alright, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got one attack here which we like very much indeed. Now, our translation here comes from lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net /PrimalLugia / the lovely David Hockman, who, I mean, when you get those three together, you're probably going to get a pretty gosh darn good translation. And what you do is you discard up to 6 cards from the top of your deck. That sounds like a recipe for losing. But the good news is that for every card you discard from the top of your deck, you do 30 damage. Which means, very simply, if you choose to go for the full 6 cards, you're doing 180 damage. 180 damage is a lot, ladies and gentlemen. And this might be a rather good time to tell you all, or at least remind you, about Triple Acceleration Energy. You see, Triple Acceleration Energy only works when attached to an evolved Pokemon. But you are very much an evolved Pokemon, so there's that done. And it provides free colourless energy. Oh look! You're attacking for free colourless energy! I know, right? This all works out really rather well, really rather quickly. It's a single energy attack. And when you sit there with a single energy attack, things get really quite good. You're a stage 1 Pokemon attacking for a single energy, so it's not like you're going to spend hours and hours setting this attack up. Or I suppose in Pokemon terms, turn after turn, setting this one up. You just drop a stage 1 and a single energy and go. And of course, being a stage 1 Pokemon, let's not forget Ditto Prism Star. So this is another one of those Pokemon whereby if you're playing Ditto Prism Star anyway, and you're playing Triple Acceleration Energy anyway, there's no reason here you couldn't just play this as a single card tech. And we said the same thing about Gyarados the other day, which hit for 90 damage, but also hit for water weakness, i.e. that would also be 180 for free energy, or 1 Triple Acceleration Energy, on a Stage 1 tech Pokemon. So that's quite nice. The thing is, 180 isn't always enough. Now don't get me wrong, right? 180 for a single energy attachment is still phenomenal, especially when we're talking about a single prize Pokemon, alright? Let's not understate this. It's still great. But the fact of the matter is that there's going to be a bunch of Pokemon that can escape this. So if you're against something like a Victini V or a Keldeo GX, things of that nature, you're doing just fine. But even when you start getting to things like Ultra Necrozma with 190 HP, we're starting to get a little bit worried. And sure, you can use Vitality Band to do an extra 10 and then you will be up to 190. But then what about things like the aforementioned Silvally with 210 HP? What about Zacian V with 220? What about Pikachu and Zekrom with 240? What about Reshiram and Charizard with 270? These are not Pokemon on whom you will be getting one-hit KOs. And that could be an issue. It's still a lot of damage, but please be aware it's not going to one-hit KO everything. If you were hitting for weakness, you would be able to guarantee a one-hit KO on anything that was weak. But unfortunately, you're not hitting anything whatsoever for weakness, and that's a little bit sad. And we do also need to bear in mind that you've got to discard the cards. Now, one thing I absolutely adore about this, you can choose. So it's not like you discard 6 cards and do 180. If you're against a Magikarp, you discard 1 card, do 30 damage. There's your KO. Job's a good one. If you're against something like an Inkay, you discard 2 cards. You do 60, you're good. If you're against a Malamar, you discard 3 cards, you do 90, you're fine. But then if your opponent drops down a Blacephalon, then you go for 6 and do 180. So that's quite nice. And discarding the cards can be good or bad. You can make this work. I mean, the obvious combo here is with Excadrill. Now, I probably think about the Excadrill from Cosmic Eclipse more than your average person. Once Sword and Shield is legal for tournament play, it is very much going to be one of my pet decks. I love it. But for a single fighting energy, you do 30 damage. If there are 3 or fewer cards left in your deck, you do 180. And then you use Manaphy here. So, no, wait, Fione, they're pretty similar. You use a Fione from Cosmic Eclipse that essentially, if it's on your bench, you can put it on the bottom of your deck. It really just guarantees you won't deck out by making sure you've always got a card to put on the bottom. So essentially, you can use your triple acceleration energy in the early game to smash with Diggersby, and then you run through your deck very quickly, and then you bring in Excadrill to pick up the slack afterwards. That could be fun. That could work rather nicely. And it would cover for the fact that you've only got 4 triple acceleration energy and hence 4 Diggersby attacks before things start going rather wrong. Though I do need to mention that with it being colourless energy, there's nothing to stop you using Welder here. And there's nothing to stop you using Malamar here. So we've got plenty of ways to accelerate the energy. You'll be fine energy-wise if you don't want to just rely on triple acceleration. But it's still... It's kind of expensive. Once you get past the triple acceleration energy, it's not as easy. Sure, you can pay it in one turn with Welder, but you need Welder and 3 energy in hand, 2 of which are fire, in order to actually pay it. But then we get to the downside of doing all this. Yes, we can make the discard work for us, and yes, we're doing all right in terms of damage, and it's a single price Pokemon, and you might deck out here. Let's say, for argument's sake, you come against a Centiskorch. Well, Centiskorch mills 1 card from the top of your deck for every fire energy attached to it. So if they've got 1 fire energy, they mill 1 card. But if they've got 3 fire energy, they mill 3 cards, and so on. If you're milling yourself with this attack, things could go pretty wrong pretty quickly. One could also say the same thing about the Excadrill, who can do 120 for a single energy, but then you need to discard the top 4 cards of your deck. You've been warned. But what about people playing stuff like Belelba and Bryson Man? You see, Belelba and Bryson Man says that both players must discard the top 3 cards of their deck. And if you're milling yourself, that's going to be a bad thing. And there are some decks that might play Belelba and Bryson Man as a one-off deck. Honestly, I'm not seeing that as much as I thought I would, but I think it will get more and more as we go. But there are also going to be a bunch of people who are playing it with stuff like Oranguru, where you can just play it over and over and over again. And this is where things start going kind of wrong. Against any kind of milling deck, you can't play a Pokemon like this. Trying to use this against a milling deck is basically saying to your opponent, don't worry, if you're having a little bit of trouble, I've got your back, I will help you mill me. Well, it's good for them. They're going to enjoy that. It's going to be less good for you. But as with all things, it's in your control. If you make an entirely Diggersby deck, then yeah, you risk decking out. But if you've got other attackers and you're playing against a mill deck, go, sorry Diggersby, today is not your day. Next round we can be bros again. That's where we need to go with this. I still like this. I think it's a really fun card. I love that it's a stage 1. I love that it can be done for 1 energy attachment, and I love the amount of damage it can do. So I'm going to go ahead and give it between 3 and 4 Wossies, although do please remember that we don't give half Wossies, because to do so would be barbaric. But this is the point in the video where I want to know what you think about Diggersby. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we do talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.